A sugar pill just relieved someone's real pain, not imagined, measured on a brain scan in real time. And what that actually proves is more unsettling than anything either side of this argument wants to admit. We are here to examine a documented phenomenon, not a myth. A person is given a substance with no active pharmacological ingredient, sugar, saline, an inert capsule. They are told it will relieve their pain, and in a measurable percentage of cases, it does. Brain imaging confirms this is not imagination. The anterior cingulate cortex, the region governing pain perception, shows genuine reduced activity. Endogenous opioids, the body's own painkillers, are measurably released. The relief is real, only the cause was fabricated.
Zenox. State the actual mechanism before either of us romanticizes it.
The brain has learned to associate the ritual of medication with relief. When the ritual is repeated, the brain begins producing the relief in advance. I will not adjudicate this case. I present it and I withdraw. The two of you may determine what it actually proves.
Abraxas. Then let me say plainly what this proves. The mind is not a passive witness to the body. It is a participant. A person believes they will heal, and their body produces real, measurable, chemical relief in response to that belief alone. This is not weakness. This is evidence of an instrument inside every person capable of altering their own physical state simply by directing belief toward a specific outcome. I have counseled the dying. I have watched a person's final months extend, inexplicably, past every prognosis, for no reason a physician could document, except that they had something left they were determined to live for. Call this anecdote if you wish. The placebo effect is the same phenomenon, simply measured under laboratory conditions instead of a hospital room. Belief is not decoration on top of biology. Belief is itself a biological lever.
Zenox. You have described the phenomenon correctly and drawn precisely the wrong conclusion from it. Consider what actually happened in that laboratory. The relief did not occur because the patient possessed some latent power of belief they accessed through will. The relief occurred because they were deceived. They were told a falsehood convincingly enough that their nervous system responded as though the falsehood were true. Remove the deception. Tell the patient honestly that the pill is inert, and in most cases, the effect collapses. This is not the mind demonstrating mastery over the body. This is the mind demonstrating how easily it can be steered by information it has no way of verifying. I once commanded a garrison where a physician, out of desperation during a shortage, distributed chalk tablets to wounded soldiers, telling them it was a powerful analgesic. Pain reports dropped. Morale improved. When the deception was later discovered, something worse than the original pain returned, not physical agony, a collapse of trust so complete that soldiers began doubting every genuine treatment offered to them afterward. The relief Abraxas celebrates came at a cost he has not yet named. Every placebo response is built on a lie, and lies discovered.
Then, let us examine your soldiers honestly, rather than selectively. Their pain relief was genuine, while the belief held. You are not arguing the relief was fake. You are arguing it was unstable, contingent on a deception that could not survive discovery. That is a criticism of the method, not of the mechanism. If belief can produce real relief when the person believes a falsehood, imagine what genuine, verified, deserved belief could produce. You have proven my case by trying to disprove it.
Do not heal. They corrode. No, I have proven something you refuse to look at directly. If the relief only functions because the patient does not know the truth, then the relief is not evidence of the mind's power. It is evidence of the mind's dependency on ignorance. A capacity that requires deception to function is not a strength waiting to be harnessed deliberately. It is a vulnerability that happens to occasionally produce a beneficial side effect. You cannot build a philosophy of empowerment on a mechanism that stops working the moment a person is told the truth.
Then, what would you have people do? Abandon belief entirely because it can be exploited?
I would have them understand precisely what they are dealing with, so it cannot be used against them by anyone with less honorable intentions than a well-meaning physician. Every con artist, every false prophet, every merchant of false hope throughout history has operated on the exact mechanism you are calling sacred. The placebo effect is not proof the mind can heal itself through belief. It is proof the mind can be made to believe almost anything, given the right ritual and the right authority delivering it. That is not a gift. That is an exposed wire.
I want to hold that fully before I answer it, because I think you have said something true that I do not want to argue away from cheaply. You are right that the mechanism requires belief the recipient cannot independently verify. That is a genuine vulnerability, not a strength I can simply reframe as courage. I was wrong to call it mastery. Mastery would mean I could produce the effect on myself deliberately, knowingly, without needing to be deceived first. Most people cannot do this. The relief in that laboratory was not chosen. It was extracted, gently, through a falsehood they never consented to see clearly.
Then we are closer to agreement than expected.
Closer, but not arrived. Because there is a narrow exception inside your own argument, and I want to name it before we close this case. There is a documented difference between deceptive placebo and what researchers now call the open-label placebo, where a patient is told honestly, this is an inert pill, and given it anyway, with an explanation of the conditioned response mechanism behind it. In several studies, relief still occurred, not as strongly, but present, which means the mechanism is not purely dependent on deception after all. Something in the ritual itself, even fully disclosed, still moves the nervous system.
That is a fair correction, and I will not pretend it isn't, but notice what it actually proves, because it does not return the ground to you. If honest disclosure weakens the effect, but does not fully erase it, the mechanism was never belief in the mystical sense you first proposed. It is closer to a conditioned reflex, like salivating at a sound once paired with food, present even after the pairing is explained. That is not a hidden power waiting to be unlocked through conviction. That is a documented mechanical feature of a predictable nervous system, useful to understand, dangerous to romanticize.
Then, I withdraw the larger claim. The mind is not a lever powerful enough to heal on command through sheer belief. It is a system capable of producing a real, if modest and partial, physiological response to conditioning and ritual, whether or not the person understands the mechanism behind it.
Which means the ledger closes here. Not with belief as power, with belief as a documented reflex, occasionally beneficial, frequently exploitable, and never a substitute for genuine medicine or genuine truth.
The placebo effect was never proof of what the mind can achieve through conviction alone. It was proof of something more modest and more useful, that the body listens to expectation closely enough to be held by it, and closely enough to be deceived by it, and that the difference between those two outcomes has never depended on the strength of belief. It has depended on the honesty of whoever is standing at the door, deciding what the mind is told to expect. Cura animi, cure of the soul. If this reached you at the right moment, subscribe and bring your own ledger to the next examination.
Subscribe to join the reflection and welcome to the channel.